I have a question. We had the situation on planning commission where someone wanted to take a class and they had to wait to approve it, and we talked about giving them a small budget for that.
Right,
Is that there in anywhere, so we?
under planning and zoning,
Where's that?
414.
Seminars, 414, 460.
460, yes.
That's $200, okay, so that's a new item.
I'm looking at the, excuse me, the sewer account.
Where is it? I think at the back.
That's the back. 390, can you just elaborate briefly on donation of 150,000?
That's the money we got from Medusa.
Thank you.
It's not really a donation, it's really it was a requirement. It's not, I mean, a donation feels like, we liked you so much, we gave you $150,000, but that's not really what it is.
Contribution.
Well, but it was required.
Correct. I can change that to contribution.
Yeah, I think it'd be
Yeah.
easier to understand.
That's fine.
We have a rich friend in the neighborhood who's giving us money. 150,000. And the sewer rent is based on our current customers?
Yes.
I'm really sorry.
Plus 4.
Do you know who to write the check out to?
Excuse me?
Do you know who to write the check out to?
Lower Frederick.
Laura Fred, thank you.
So that's based on really no new houses?
4.
4, okay. And where in the budget is labor, I mean, not labor, but the people who are looking at, yeah, personnel costs, or the personnel costs?
Under sewer account expenses, 429, 130.
Labor, okay, what is clerk?
That's half of Bonnie's salary.
Okay, so just a question, so you're calling her a clerk here. So half of her time is as a clerk? Let's talk about this later. And the labor, and that's based on what hourly rate, 62,000?
It's 27 or 28.
Okay. And that would be theoretically assuming we have someone who's more or less working a full-time,
Correct.
whoever it is, okay. And is the related benefits in there as well for that person?
Yes. It's
And then-
under medical, Social Security, disability.
Okay, so that's for the clerk and the, so those two lines, 110 and 130. $29,000 medical, what is that?
That's half of Bonnie's, and I took a full-time family rate for
So it could be less than
labor.
that.
Could be less than that,
Okay.
correct.
And what is line 120 testing?
That's for MJ Ryder when they come in to do their testing at the sewer plant.
Okay.
Do we have more time in for Tommy at the plant, or?
Yeah, what are we doing with moving Tommy into a full-time at the plant?
That's for you guys to decide. I don't think we made a decision on that.
Because we have to budget that in.
But that is
That's at the
budgeted.
62.
That is budgeted.
Oh, it is, okay,
Yeah, whoever it is.
okay.
And the sludge hauling, you'll see, that was only 50 or 45 last year. I had to increase that to 90, so that almost doubled.
Yes, I seen that, I knew that. Did they base it on the way we worked it out with the roads?
Now, he is, I mean, after I talked to him a little bit about decanting and
Yeah.
getting the sludge a little bit thicker, he's only been hauling twice a week as opposed to 3 times a week now.
That's,
So that'll cut down on some costs.
So I've got a question on this sewer connection line. That's high because of connections we've had this year, but normally would not be that high. Is that correct? The 541,000?
That's the money to be received from Metropolitan for the sewer tap-in fees.
But that's a one-time only.
Strictly only Metropolitan?
Yes.
Okay.
Metropolitan's, in talking to Horton, actually that'll be coming from D.R. Horton, and then Horton has to go back to Metropolitan to get reimbursed, but that's none of our business or none of our care, but that's the way she explained it to me.
But I guess my question is, that's a really huge number. We're not gonna see that in 2020, probably.
2019,
2020.
my impression was that they were going to pay that all at once.
Right, but what I'm saying is, we're not gonna see a big income in the sewage account.
Oh, in
next year.
2020?
Yes.
No,
Okay,
unless the other developments start taking off.
okay, so we should probably put that extra money in the bank for the other years where
That's fine, yeah.
we'll have less income.
I think on Carol's self-liquidating debt report, she broke out what she was figuring Ragusa would have for 2019 and what she would have for 2020. I don't believe she has the whole figure being, and I don't know if they're taking care of the 39 homes plus the 2 additional.
I think it's based on 41 homes.
Okay. But I'm just saying, is if you look at Carol's paperwork that went in for the loan, she has it broke out exactly how many units for 2019 and how many for the following year.
And also the manhole lining, is that gonna be an every year expense, or is that just once in a while?
Whenever we get grant money, I suppose.
Yeah, that was a grant.
Yeah, that was a grant this time.
But we're
That's
not
a
gonna,
grant.
we don't need to do that every year. Sewage, I mean,
Well, each year we look at them, and if we feel that we can get some in, you'll get them in, if not.
okay. Okay. That looks pretty good, I just have a few questions. Do you know what this purchase of equipment for the parks, this is at the very end of the operating fund?
The Parks Board came up with a list of repairs and maintenance for all the parks.
Uh-huh.
So hopefully we'll be able to tackle that next year.
So this is their whole wish list, so it'll happen once and then they'll be good for a while? Is that your sense?
Probably another 2 years maybe, till things start breaking or wearing down again.
So is this the kind of thing that we should have in there every year?
I think it would be smart to put some money away like we do for cars.
Yeah, okay. Maybe they can help with that estimate.
What do we have in for ambulance, nothing?
It's $52,740.
It's 421.
That's an in and out too. It's collect millage and then people like that.
Does the money that's in the account, in the budget for this year, for like Tommy didn't strike last year and he didn't strike this year so far, does that money get added to it for next year, or how's
What,
that
the
work?
line strike?
For the line striping, because remember, I think he mentioned like 2 meetings ago, 15,000, and I think that was the same from last year, so I mean, is that 30,000 gonna be added to his budget for next year, or how does that work?
I just have 15.
Yeah, just moved over. If he doesn't do it, it just moves over for him to do it next year. to 15,000.
So we never get more striping done than that. I mean, obviously, we needed to have it done, we just didn't, you know, we didn't get it last year and we didn't get it this year.
Yes, because of the chipping, it got late. I don't think he done that.
Well, the weather didn't help any.
And the weather didn't help. So he'll probably do it in the spring when the weather gets nice.
So we won't have any additional for striping towards the end of the year if he needs to do some additional work.
Depends on how the bid comes in too, you know. See, we're finding out, here two or 3 years ago, I had told Carol, I said, stop bidding in June, bid in winter time, because guys are lining up their work then for the summer. And it worked out, that's when we started getting those cheap prices on the oil and the chipping, and that's the way to do it. Because one year it was, we paid ungodly amount for oil and chipping, because we never put it out till June. So we moved it up to the winter time, and then guys are lining it up and saying, oh, you know what, here's a cheap price to get started.
And I heard you guys mention something earlier, that there's like 305,000 that's coming from reserves to
Yep.
add.
Yep,
So we do have a reserve.
yep. Yeah, so the thing, it was the same thing last year was about 250,000, but I think most of it came back. How much of it came back?
I'm projecting
Not
to end
very-
the year with at least a $200,000 surplus.
Yeah, so most of that comes back. And I'm just guessing, but I'm guessing that a lot of the reason for that need is that we're not raising taxes and our police costs is the main thing in here that continues to go up. And at a certain point, income and expenses just don't match, and that's what's been happening the last couple of years, so. You have two choices, you can either raise taxes, you can take money out of your savings account, so to speak. That's the only two options, or you can stop spending money. That's a third option, so.
Did we ever think about putting in a little more in the budget for the ambulance, for that they could replace a ambulance in 5 years, every 5 years?
That's just based on the millage.
I know that is,
I
yeah.
don't, no one's had ever presented that option to me.
I mean, it would help them, I think, a lot.
Do they ever give us like a budget, proposed budget? for
We
just
can
the
get
ambulance?
one off of them.
Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't be a problem. I know we only give them that and the building, but
Yeah, the other question I have about ambulance, I think there's a couple other localities who also kick in. Doesn't TRAP make a contribution, who else?
they all give small contribution. We give the biggest.
Right. I mean, is there any way we
Some
can
of
get them to kick up theirs a little? I mean,
It would be nice if they would, even
That's a
Upper Frederick,
situation.
but
well, I mean,
it
expenses go
was-
up,
The
everybody,
ideal.
everybody should kick in, it shouldn't just be us.
you're right.
Right.
It was a tough road to hoe when we brought them in. I mean, I had to go up and sit with Upper Frederick in there to talk to the supervisors because they were gonna go with Gilbertsville. And,
It's too far.
well, it wasn't that. Gilbertsville was in a financial problem because I was up there a lot. And they kept saying, oh, they can handle it, they can handle it. And they were out of money, they had no money. Green Lane was in financial trouble. Perk was in financial trouble. Harleysville owed Lower Frederick. So when we merged, this Lower Frederick owed nobody. No, I mean, it was a,
So who over there could provide like a proposed budget?
I think Tom could. I know he mentioned it last year, that, you know,
So you're talking about a new ambulance for the fire company, not for the,
no, for the
Ambulance
ambulance,
service, okay.
ambulance service.
Okay.
They're by themselves, fire companies by themselves.
so aren't they private, the
You know,
ambulance service?
well, it's Plymouth, but they're still part of us, now, you know, we're part of them.
Okay.
Because Bill sits on their board.
There's an
And that was-
agreement, a governmental agreement, I believe.
Yes, yes, there is.
Okay, it'd be helpful to, I think, for Chuck and I to learn more about
I
how
mean,
that
if it
works.
was,
I agree.
okay.
Yeah, the financial arrangements and what the
Is
agreement
that
is.
separate millage strictly 55?
That's strictly for them, yes.
Okay, so we're not pulling in other
No,
revenues to
no.
touch that?
So you're
No.
proposing maybe raising the millage so they can have more money?
Well,
for
I thought,
ambulance?
you know, if we just put some more into it, I didn't wanna raise it if we
From the
could.
general?
Here's what they were talking. A year ago, they were talking $150,000 every 5 years So you break it out to put in each year, like 30,000, I believe it was, 30, 60, 90, yeah, about that. Would put them right about the area where they gotta be. That supplies a brand new truck and some of the stuff in it. So, that's what they were talking. I mean, that isn't a lot.
Yeah, here it is, the millage is .20 for ambulance, so what would happen if we raise that a little bit? I don't think it should come out of our operating fund. I mean,
Well, I think we get a proposed budget from them first.
Let's talk to Tom,
Okay.
bring him in. All right.
okay,
Believe me, I mean, the fire company's fine. I'm gonna tell you right now, you don't have to do nothing.
that's good.
I'm telling you right now, they're well off. So, you won't have to worry about them at all. We cover their insurance, I know that, for the trucks and all, that falls under township.
And the workman's comp.
Yes, yes.
So if Tommy's gonna go over to the sewer plant full-time, then does that mean you're gonna have an opening in the roads department for somebody?
That hasn't been decided.
It hasn't been talked about yet, I mean, we mentioned it and just brought it up, but never really sat down and said which way we'd go. Tommy would go over, cause he's the one with the license for the sewer plant, he's the one who knows the sewer plant. So,
Can I ask a question?
sure.
With respect to wages and increases, are there any Montgomery County or regional planning, not regional planning, but regional norms that have been established? Like, do we know what the average township within Monco or within the Monco regional area have been providing for their, as increases for the staff? Yeah, and possibly even breaking down by
They're all-
manager and so forth. I'm just curious, because I know it's not like the public sector where it's paid for performance and we
You mean private
adjust.
sector?
Yeah.
They're all pretty well matched in the area.
Okay.
I mean, if it wasn't, one of our guys would leave here and go to Limerick, if it was open, they'd go somewhere else. They're pretty well matched, you know, it's,
I was
There's a-
more wondering about the raises that you guys were talking about,
Yeah,
or
there-
the
there's-
things that are in
There's a
line.
study that PSETS does every 2 years,
Okay.
which would be good for you to look at. And it's a survey, and they survey, and I think they do it by counties.
That would be,
And they have job descriptions, so they would have a job description for, pancake flipper. And what I'm just picking it up, right?
yeah,
So the average pancake flipper in Montgomery County, like the low wage might be like 28,000, and the high might be like 45, and then they give an average. But there's always some places that pay very high and some places that pay very low. And so that's something you can go by, but it's done by job title. And so what you have to understand is like, does your job title consistent with that job title?
yeah. I was just curious whether there's
Yeah.
anything more focused in on like government type jobs versus, public sector jobs have a lot more variables and they're allowed to do, I don't think you're allowed to do pay for performance in
in the government.
a government, you don't do an evaluation.
Right.
Well, you can, but I don't think it works the same way as in private sector where you say
Well,
this guy was exemplary and he gets more money or.
I mean,
do his job.
even like PennDOT, they do it on, percentages.
Yeah.
you know.
So, yeah, I was just curious if we had some guidelines to go by, to know whether these numbers are, okay, thanks.
And like I said, like by working with Tommy over into there, instead of paying the other inspector the money to inspect all the sewer stuff, Tommy would do it, so that money would come back into the sewer fund, okay? which is the way it's done normally in other sewer plants. Like, you know, if I go out and I do a lateral somewhere for somebody, I have to call the sewer authority to send the guy out from there,
Right.
okay? So,
This time you have to get qualified for that inspection?
well, he doesn't because he's only qualified here,
Oh,
I mean, he, you know, he's qualified in the sewer, so, I mean, it isn't a brainer, you just go out there and make sure everything's right when they install it and tie it in, and, it's, you know, and sometimes watch some of these guys, you know.
Does that require relicensing every so many years?
No.
The license lasts forever?
I mean, he could go get some lessons and training if he wants to, but he should know most of it himself now, you know.
He's been doing it for
Yeah.
a while.
Because I mean, usually if you have somebody putting a lateral in, it's usually a plumber that's pulling the permit.
Yeah, that's
and
correct.
Putting it in
And
by the
very-
plumbing code, so if he doesn't know the plumbing code, I'd hate to see him get in a pissing match with somebody and,
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it's, I mean, like I said,
Common
it's a common sense, it's, you know, 1/4 inch per foot, you can go to 1/8 of an inch, you don't wanna go no more, anything under driveways or anything, you wanna use a Schedule 40 or SDR 35, it's, I mean, it's, and that's what we use here anyway in the township.
I think if we just have their questions that we need to be answered, I'm good. We can maybe, by tomorrow, we can get some of those clarified.
We still wanna hold then an executive session,
Yes,
when do we wanna do that?
but right now. So, I mean, you're here, you're not gonna be here tomorrow.
On the phone I'll be here, but I won't be here in person.
That's gonna be tougher.
I know,
Been there, done that.
yeah, I know, I know.
So we're going to, what do we say? We're going to
Recess.
recess to executive session.